a time spiral.
Sure.
And then things get going. You're right back where you started.
I guess one thing that's also pretty nice about this particular build of High Tide, there are 4 copies of Sensei's Divine Top, which is great against discard.
Correct.
So you have to like that as well. Don't know if she's going to board in her counterbalances here, which there are 4 copies of those, but we'll find out as we do go here. David Goldfarb is the opponent. He's going to start by sacrificing a Bloodstained Mire. Going to go get a land, and we'll see what he has to play on turn 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jund historically is very, very bad against Storm.
Yes.
Now this High Tide is kind of technically a Storm deck, but it's not really. Yeah, it's really more of a mana engine deck. It's not just trying to turn 1 you, turn 2 you, the way that the Ad Nauseam Tendrils decks are.
Sure.
So that extra turn or two's worth of wiggle room there, that can make the difference in the matchup for sure.
This hand is mighty interesting. 3 Force of Will, a Time Spiral, and a Cunning Wish. Also, letting Thoughtseize simply resolve.
True.
Was a little surprising to me as well.
Yeah, that is odd. The forces are nice, but you're still 2 for 1ing yourself against a Hymn to Turok Liliana of the Veil deck, which is a little awkward. It's possible that the Feline is thinking that, like, well, if I keep these forces to actually stop David from applying real pressure, on David's turn 2, you have to suspect he's going to attempt a Tarmogoyf, a Dark Confidant, something along those lines. If she can actually Force of Will the creatures, then sure, shred my hand, whatever. We'll play off the top. As long as we're both doing it, I feel like the deck that, again, can miracle a Time Spiral has got to be a favorite.
I can get behind that. See, plus Mire number 2 is going to get sacrificed. Goldfarb is going to go down to 16. He knows exactly what he's up against now, if he didn't know when he sat down at the table. And there is Tarmogoyf, and we may see Force of Will on that. We'll find out if Longmore wants to counter this or not.
Well, she's not sure, apparently. I kind of feel like if you're going to let the Thoughtseize resolve, you have to kind of be committed to this plan, but maybe not. She certainly has played this deck more than I have, so.
That's for sure, and has won an open with this deck.
Yes.
It's time to go Merchant Scrolling here. I imagine this will be for High Tide because the mystery card is Time Spiral.
Yes.
And then there's 3 copies of Force of Will, so there is a High Tide.
Yep. 1 land off the top would actually allow her to cast High Tide and then cast Time Spiral and go nuts.
Yeah, I was curious if she draws a land, that's land number 4, you cast High Tide, you cast Spiral, you've got 4 lands that you get to untap. In theory, you have access to 8 blue. Do you just want to go for it right away, or you're not underneath that much pressure?
Yeah, I mean, with your Force of Wills, you can afford to wait a turn, maybe. It really depends on what David does this turn. If he demands a Force of Will here, then sitting with just the 1 force left and 2 blue cards, but blue cards you need to cast, I think you just go for it.
Okay.
If he doesn't, say maybe he just plays another Tarmogoyf. She can let that resolve, sit on Force of Will for like the turn that she would need, and then see another draw step, potentially develop her hand a little bit more. That's all assuming she draws the land.
Of course. Well, if 1 Tarmogoyf is going to resolve, the second one will as well. So second Tarmogoyf is going to come in. Longmore is going to draw a card. Oh, there's the land. Okay. So this is going to answer the question, I think, pretty quickly here. Yep. Is it going to be time to go for it or not? Lightning Bolt's going to add to the graveyard here. There's already an instant in there, so Longmore's going to go down to 14.
Yeah, doesn't change the clock significantly. So really, Feline is just taking 1 extra look for either a 5th land before she starts comboing off or another High Tide. Yep. I don't think she would actually cast anything else that she would draw.
I would agree.
Yeah, maybe other than maybe like a turnabout or something weird like that, just to add just something that generates mana, like Candelabra, for example. Yep. She either finds mana or just goes off with what she has, I think.
I'll start by sacrificing both of these lands, so maybe looking for just 1 more action spell as well. We'll see. Down to 6. Can't die this turn. Can't die the next, so you have to imagine she has to go for it on this turn.
Yes.
And has at least some of the tools to do so.
Sure. I mean, you'll get to untap with access to at least 8 mana and 7 cards. I've gone off from shadier spots than that with various combo decks. So.
Well, here's a High Tide, there's Time Spiral. So every island going to tap for blue. Goldfarb's going to take a look. I guess we can do the same. Yeah. There's a lot of text on that thing.
Sure. Goldfarb taking a look. So I get 7 cards too, right? Not that those will help him, I don't think.
Yes, you do get 7 cards, David. we promised that much.
He only has the 1 red source that Deathheart Shaman just entered play, so it's not going to tap for red. So there's no possibility that he finds 2 lightning bolts. In fact, he is only playing 2 lightning bolts. That's interesting.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he's made room for punishing fire, I think.
Okay.
So that's.
Gotcha.
I think that's the concession that got made there. So no possibility that he actually draws a lethal 7 here, at least that I can see. Really the only relevant spell I think he could actually find would be Abrupt Decay, which could, in theory, destroy a Candelabra of Tawnos.
That's really about it. So
Yeah. Not in theory, he can certainly do it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I guess this is on Longmore to not fizzle.
Yeah.
Again, no mana floating, has not played a land yet for the turn. All the islands will tap for 2 blue. I'm going to try to keep up. This should be fun.
All right. Sweet. So if you're trying, I don't have to. Is that what you're telling me?
That's exactly it.
Deal.
A second high tide with 1 blue floating and now a preordain. Those islands are now going to tap for 3. What I won't keep up with is the spell count. No. But then again, Storm actually doesn't matter because she kills most people with Blue Sun Zenith.
True.
So.
Yeah. She does have 1 brain freeze in the sideboard,
Yep.
but generally only keeps track of storm count, I think, when she needs to.
Yep. Now, one thing you're also going to notice, because Feline has won an open with this deck before in Seattle 2 years ago, I remember Patrick and I actually called that one, is she plays High Tide very fast.
Yes, she does.
So High Tide a lot of the time can be a gigantic pain to have on camera because the going off process takes a while.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to generate all of this mana and time spiraling and shuffling all this stuff. Not for her.
Indeed.
She's real good
yes.
at this.
I've watched her play several matches, not just on camera, but in the off-camera features and such. The craziest part of this, actually, like it's impressive to watch on camera, but to actually hear it, the math of especially when she gets going with extra high tides, starts untapping things, tapping them, she'll just be like, 19 blue mana, play this, 15 blue mana, untap, tap this, 37 blue mana, and just lightning quick. She knows exactly how much mana is in her pool, and she is doing the math very, very quickly.
Merchant scrolling now. You saw Candelabra untap a bunch of lands. All those islands right now are tapping for 4 blue. I believe that looks like a promotional meditate. Am I right about that?
I don't know what a promotional meditate looks like, but it sounds right.
Might have been a turnabout there. Here's a wish.
Okay. I didn't know there was any other kind of turnabout.
That's promo turnabout. Okay,
Okay.
fair enough. I see a lot of Magic cards because it's kind of
Yeah.
my job to know them
Yes.
and look at them. I've never seen that one before.
Yeah, me either. I was like, okay, that's yeah.
This is a Blue Sun Zenith for a whole bunch. So I don't have that exact number,
No.
but a whole bunch will suffice. 15 works.
That was on you to keep track of, said.
I'm trying.
You
I'm
promised.
trying to do 2 things at once.
Okay.
What's happening here is she's separating the piles of cards that matter and they don't, and they're face up because she knows that Goldfarb can't do anything.
Yes.
So, yeah, sure, you can look at these cards with me as well. I'm going to play Candelabra, I'm going to play Storm, I'm going to play another Top, I'll play another High Tide. My islands tap for more. You saw her put islands in one pile along with Force of Wills because those counter spells don't matter, and I suppose if they do, she can go reach into that pile and counter something.
Yeah.
But, sharing the information of here's exactly what I'm doing, making this a pretty easy process. Going to search for Blue Sun Zenith again with Merchant Scroll.
Yeah. Again, one of the coolest things about watching her do this, she seems to spend most of her mental energy on just keeping track of the mana count, which what that means is the actual process of casting spells, the sequencing of what you need to do in what order in order to go off with a High Tide deck, which is not a simple process.
Yep.
But to her it is. It is almost just like rote memorization.
Yeah.
She just knows what to do. Just boom, does it.
And so that turnabout actually went to go get that turnabout. The wish got turnabout. I can't even talk. The wish got turnabout. Turnabout untapped the Candelabras. Candelabras untapped the land. Generated mana. Blue Sun Zenith for 57. That's it.
Yeah, sure. Just 57.
Yeah. This is very, very easy
It is.
for her once she actually gets it going.
She's so generous. She's like, hey, here. Hey, you know what? I gave you a fresh 7. You need more.
What's really funny to me is when you watch High Tide play, when they're winning, they are like destroying their opponent like we just saw. And when
Right.
they're losing, she's just like, yep, ponder, shuffle. I'm not really doing anything. You win. And it's like, your deck's not good. But when they kill you, it's like, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm just actually dead. And that's what happened there. So Feline Longmore does win game number 1 over David Goldfarb. He's going to go to the board. You've got that in front of you. What can he find?
He has several spells, actually. Some of which are obvious include, some of which might do things. We see 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Golgari Charm, 1 Ancient Grudge, 1 Choke, 2 Duress, 1 Abrupt Decay, 2 Extirpate, 1 Umezawa's Jitte, 1 Toxic Deluge, 1 Pyroblast, 1 Chains of Mephistopheles. Yeah. If you can't see Cedric right now. He is trying to conjure up from his memory what a Chains of Mephistopheles
No, I
is.
know what it does. I don't know exactly what it does, but I know what it does. Here's how people explain chains. What is Chains Mephistopheles doing? They say just don't brainstorm or don't Jace brainstorm when it's in play. That's what people say.
We have it on screen. That is, of course, the printed text, which may or may not be useless.
Yeah, this will be really helpful.
Essentially, what goes on when there's a Chains in play is if you draw any card other than your actual draw step, instead of drawing a card, you put a card back.
Okay.
So if you brainstorm, you put cards back, and then you put cards back.
I'm just saying, look, this version first of all, I don't know what that's a picture of. Second of all,
that's Mephistopheles.
Great.
This is not-
Thank you. I'm so glad you're here.
Okay.
So first of all, I don't know what that's a picture of. Second of all,
Gotta bring a little culture to the stream.
I'm just saying, like, we're making all of these new sets like Vintage Masters and, Conspiracy. I'm just saying, can we get an updated version of the card? That's all I'm saying. We can use a reprint with the appropriate text so that it makes sense.
Well, then we lose this beautiful
Thing.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true. We lose the old part of the game.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just
don't want
saying,
to lose that guy.
I'm
Look
just
at him.
saying one set, just randomly throw it in there.
The thing is, a thing like that. I don't a demon.
How about this? I'll
Mephis-
compromise. We'll meet in the middle. We can keep the terrible artwork and just updated text. How about that?
Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that.
All right, perfect.
All I'm saying is, I want this guy in front of me where I can see him.
Sure.
I'm not trying to tuck him away somewhere.
That is perfectly fine. That one's on you. But that card is so ridiculously confusing. I wonder, I guess I don't wonder because I know which one gets more judge calls. I was going to say which one gets more judge calls, that or humility, but it's humility by infinite.
because it sees way more play. I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
and because it's like the most confusing card ever.
Yeah.
But I imagine that every time that card gets cast, like if someone casts that card against me, I'm calling the judge over immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know what this does.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of judges, they're used to humility calls.
Yeah.
I think you'll sometimes see a judge call over a Chains of Mephistopheles, and the judge will come and be like, oh, crap.
Yeah. So I'm going to go straight to the head then. If I was the judge, okay, I'm going to make a ruling that you should certainly appeal. So here's what I think it is.
Yeah.
But don't listen to me.
Let's take a spin. Again, just based on this awkward old wording anyway. But back to what's actually going to go on with the Jund sideboard. That chain certainly comes in
Yes.
against the deck with Ponder, Brainstorm,
And Preordained.
Time Spiral.
Also true. Yeah.
I think we clearly could go with Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, the Choke, of course.
Yep.
Choke not insane against High Tide awkwardly because they can untap their lands in many, many ways.
Yeah, merely good.
But very good still. The rest of these cards, they have fringe applications. There's an argument for Ancient Grudge. There's an argument for Extirpate.
Yeah.
If Extirpate's one of those cards that you kind of have to like put together kind of a janky combo to make it work. But if you can, turn one Thought Seize a High Tide.
And take them with extra. But if anyone would know how to win in that situation, it would be Longmore.
Sure. Well,
I can't imagine how you do it though.
You do it with Brain Freeze.
Okay.
I think that's how you do it anyway.
Okay.
I don't want to make any promises here.
Sure.
But that's how you do it. In theory, you can also just let her start going off and then extirpate the first High Tide that she casts. I don't think she has too much trouble comboing off with just one High Tide. Yeah. She can do it. It's obviously harder, but it's certainly doable.
Duress is going to be cast here by Goldfarb. You're going to see a Time Spiral, Sensei's Divining Top, a Counterbalance, a Brainstorm, a Merchant Scroll, an Island, and a Flooded Strand. The counterbalances are from the sideboard. This is a new strategy that Feline has been trying over the past couple of weeks. I believe this began in Somerset. We saw it last week in India, and now we see it again here. The sideboard is relatively the same. One thing I have noticed is that she has sideboarded this in every time we've had her on camera. Sideboarding against Sneak and Show, and Van Meter just cast a sneak attack, which could be countered and killed her.
Sure.
So it didn't help much there. I wonder how much it's going to help here.
Yeah. Of course, this is an Abrupt Decay deck, and the Abrupt Decay deck, the card that famously deals with counterbalance.
Yes.
That's almost why it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if she's bringing it in here, you kind of have to assume that she's actually just bringing it in the dark.
Yep.
Just that's her post-board plan. It's almost like a transitional sideboard. And that's feasible. Really, this may be a deck that post-board you actually have to slow down because your opponent is going to have interaction, whereas there's no guarantee they'll have interaction in game one, so you actually just want to be the most efficient beater or slayer of goldfish that you can be.
Oh, fair.
But post-board, you need to actually have kind of a more reactive plan. And Counterbalance certainly, of course, she has 4 tops to begin with.
Yeah.
And so bringing in the Counterbalance top package, that's just kind of a distraction. It's like, here, deal with this. And then while they're dealing with that, you kill them.
Sure. A Dark Confidant is going to show to the party here. You saw a couple fetches there from Goldfarb, searching out the Badlands and the Bayou, so down to 18 life, but the life total doesn't really matter all that much for David unless something goes very, very wrong with that Dark Confidant. Brainstorm going to resolve here, and that's on the end of turn, so again, we're looking for lands, preferably fetch lands if you're Longmore, be able to clear some of this stuff away. Just an island at this point.
Yeah. Going digging, the old end step Brainstorm on turn 1. It's one of those plays that when you're very new to Legacy, that's a play that you make and people kind of snicker about it.
Yep.
When you're kind of experienced at Legacy, it's a play that you never make. And when you're an expert at Legacy, it's a play that you actually make a reasonable amount of the time. Just recognizing that you need to do it.
Yeah, and I imagine in this particular deck, because that's not the first time I've seen that. This is a deck that actually, you're not trying to set up these beautiful brainstorms and shuffling cards away. It's just, in this deck, it's just, I need to see as many cards as possible so that I can always kill on turn 4.
Yes.
That's actually
you,
what matters.
You need to see as many cards as possible, and you need to never waste a mana.
Yeah.
You need to spend 1 mana on turn 1, spend 2 mana on turn 2. hopefully spend like 14 mana on turn 3, but three will do.
Yes.
But never less than 3.
On turn 4, it's showtime.
Yes.
Or it better be.
Yeah. And just developing her mana there, well, developing her hand.
Okay, well, easy. We have a trigger. Did we hit?
Hey, we hit.
We hit with the 1 of Zenith? Are you kidding me?
That's pretty good. There are other 3-drops though, right? She could have flipped over Cutting Wish. Just Cutting Wish, okay. So
You're right. You're right. There are others.
Yeah.
In theory, you are correct.
Okay. And actually, here's the crazy part. That where is it there? That Blue Sun Zenith is not even in her main deck.
Yep.
That is sideboarded in.
Someone knows how to play their deck.
Yeah.
Someone knows how to play their deck. Merchant Scroll, gonna go search for a High Tide. That was insane.
Yeah. Get out, Choke. No one wants you.
It's awesome too because David's just like, yeah, okay, Choke, attack with confidence. Like, 1 second.
It's like, hang on.
I have a counterbalance. My chances of hitting are low, but hit. There's a blast. Okay. There's a power blast.
Odds of the blind flip. You know,
Very high.
It actually was not a blind flip, by the way.
Well, she put that back on Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I understand that. Like, putting a 3 back is a little bit interesting, but I guess, actually, putting a 3 back there, it makes a lot of sense because of Liliana the Veil, too. So.
Yeah. Maelstrom Pulse would be a convenient answer to counterbalance as well. So, Choke, the scariest thing that David could possibly do, actually, on turn 3.
It's a very nice play, nonetheless.
Yes.
In comes Dark Confidant.
Do we see more? Looks like he can cast a creature and a Duress. Could just jam Liliana. So has some options here. I like Duress.
That'll let you see for counterbalance, too. Polluted Delta means the coast is relatively clear. It's a fetch land in play, so it can reset.
Yeah, now that you... Okay, sure. Yeah, the fetch land complicates things. If you play Duress and it actually sticks... Actually, what's going on here?
So what I think, Feline may respond, with the counterbalance, or with the fetch land here.
All right.
We might see a Brainstorm, for example.
All right. So at this point, you have to be pretty confident that the coast is clear then. If she Brainstorms, she puts a 1-drop on top, then she can prevent the Pyroblast that she knows about. But on the other hand, maybe she's okay with Pyroblast at this point.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
She could be okay with Pyroblast maybe taking care of counterbalance. You see Flusterstorm's going to target Duress here.
Okay. All right. So not actually manipulating the top of her deck in any way other than just to shuffle it. Yep. So it's blind again. So David could take a swing here. Again, either playing a 2-drop like the Tarmogoyf we've seen, or Pyroblasting the counterbalance. I think Feline's in a position where she actually wants that Pyroblast to be used to deal with a permanent that doesn't help her go off.
Yeah, I actually like the tension that this Flusterstorm creates, because basically what's happening here is, sure, you can pay 2 to resolve your Duress if you'd like, because I've already messed with the flip, so you can pay 2 if you want to. And so what's ending up happening here is it looks like he is Pyroblasting something, and so now counterbalance is on the stack again. Looks like he might be Pyroblasting a copy, so there's a 1, so that's going to counter that. So this is kind of some weird mechanics, because now I believe he tried to Pyroblast a copy of Flusterstorm, but that didn't happen when he could have just paid 2 mana for Flusterstorm to resolve the Duress.
Yeah.
So now the Duress is countered as well.
That's interesting. Well, no, I would guess that he actually tried to target the counterbalance. That makes more sense.
Okay, that does make more sense.
Again,
yes.
there's no reason to actually cast a Pyroblast when you can just pay the 1.
Sure.
Other than just blatantly misunderstanding what Flusterstorm does, which I don't want to rule out. Let's be real. But,
it can't be confusing.
Yes. But no, I would guess that he took the opportunity to try and get counterbalance off the board and did not.
Sensei Top comes into play for Longmore, has the soft lock of counterbalance plus top. Thoughtseize comes rolling off here for Goldfarb. He does need to draw a card for the turn still, I believe. I do not think that he did that, and now he will draw a card for the turn.
Dark Confidant, such a powerful card that occasionally you just forget to take your draw step.
That's just too good. Yeah, just too good. So we'll see how Goldfarb wants to continue here. Does have to kind of navigate through this top plus balance. This sideboard plan that Longmore is using looks to be relatively good effect so far.
Yeah, it's doing work. Has the Thoughtseize, would obviously like to resolve it. One casting cost, that's the one spot that you know for sure that someone with counterbalance and Sensei's Divining Top can turn off if they want to. There's an argument then for, there's Abrupt Decay, the card, as we said, that cares not what's on top of your deck.
Are you surprised that's still in?
A little, actually, yeah. We had the 2 blasts, the choke, the 2 duresses. That's at least 5. The chains, that's at least 6. He has 3 punishing fire, 2 lightning bolt, 1 Sylvan Library, 1 Maelstrom Pulse. Abruptic is better than Pulse. So that's at least 6 spots in the main that I think you can make a pretty solid argument for cutting. Without touching Abrupt Decay. So I'm a little surprised. It's likely, even he has 3 in the main. The 4th is in the board. Obviously, I don't think he brought in the 4th.
I don't think so either.
It's possible that it's a 1 of or a 2 of. He may have trimmed them. It's not dead, even if you don't know about the counterbalance plan.
Yeah.
Actually, just turning off Candelabra of Tanos.
Sure.
That's a card that if Feline cast it while she's in the process of going off, you still get a big activation out of it, and so Abrupt Decay is kind of mitigated there. But if it's in her opening hand, she wants to just play it on turn 1.
Yeah.
It's more exposed there to Abrupt Decay, but it's less exposed to things like him, Liliana, Thoughtseize. So the card's actually safer in play than in her hand.
High Tide, Time Spiral, Blue Sun, Zenith are the cards that Goldfarb is choosing from for this Thoughtseize. You saw Longmore spin top before the Thoughtseize did resolve, so no idea what she's hiding among those 3 cards. We'll see if she wants to draw the card that is on top of her deck, or if she wants to sacrifice the fetch land, maybe get a clean look at some new cards here. You see Goldfarb having to make a decision. It's a tough one. It's okay, if I take High Tide, do you have another one? Because then you can go off, or, do I take the Time Spiral? We're going to respin now.
Yeah, and I agree with the choice to take High Tide there. If you leave her with High Tide and Time Spiral, of course, she is going to cast those cards in that order and go nuts.
Yep.
But if you take away Time Spiral, she still can cast a huge Blue Sun Zenith.
Yep.
If she draws a High Tide and then something like Candelabra turnabout, she's looking at a Blue Sun Zenith for, 8, 9, something like that?
Some very large number.
Yeah.
Replacement counterbalances come into play there for Longmore after spinning a top. So passing the turn back, leaving the fetch land available. Here is a Wasteland. This is intact from Dark Confidant. Longmore is going to go down to 11. And we'll see how Goldfarb wants to try to bob and weave around this soft lock that Longmore has put into place. 3 mana. This is a Liliana. That's a trigger. This is a spin.
Not so many 3s as we've discussed. So not necessarily reliable that she can find a way to stop this with counterbalance. And her hand size is actually diminished to the point where a Liliana uptick is a pretty significant play here. And I do not suspect that she has found a 3-drop.
I believe I agree. Gonna sacrifice right here.
Let's take another look, though.
That's gonna be an island, of course. No non-basics here in the High Tide deck. Wanna make sure your deck is fantastic against Wasteland.
I like that David tapped his 3 dual lands and left Wasteland up. That's a little awkward against, of course, the deck that doesn't have any targets for Wasteland. Targets that produce mana, but
sure.
He could have actually, in a pinch, targeted the Flooded Strand and forced her to shuffle if she had found a card she actually wanted.
Sure.
Shuffle or lose her land.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it ends up looking a little weird here because she ends up shuffling anyway. But if she had flipped over a card that would have allowed her to go off, and he's seen her hand, he knows what does and doesn't allow her to go off at this stage.
Not surprised to see the Zenith get discarded there at all. The question is this a High Tide? Because if it's a High Tide, I think we're going to see High Tide spiral across the fingers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, once that Zenith's in the graveyard, only High Tide can win her this game.
Yep.
That's the only way to get it back into a zone where she can cast it and actually win with it.
Ponder's going to shuffle things away. It's going to be seems like a tough game right now.
Yeah, it really does. Even if she just does find High Tide here, that doesn't help.
Unfortunately, she has a little bit of protection against the Liliana just because she can draw a card with top at random and then discard that card.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, it's still a difficult situation, I think. If a him comes firing off or something like that, it's going to be still pretty hard to win. Luckily, she, as far as time is concerned on the life total, she's doing okay, sitting at 10 and going to be going to 8 this turn, but not doing great because now the tension from the life total and the Liliana is very realistic here.
Yeah, that is true. And that Dark Confidant has been sitting in place since turn 2. David is up something like 6 cards at this point with it. That's a real advantage that is definitely going to add up. You know, every upkeep and every draw step that Feline gives David is another shot at Chains of Mephistopheles or at Red Elemental Blast or something equally annoying. An extirpate at this point would be game ending.
Looks like all Goldfarb has those lands and creatures over there. You see Dark Confidant, there's Tarmogoyf, other stuff like that. So nothing too crazy going on.
I said Extirpate would give in. Actually, that counterbalance still sitting in play. Could counter it.
Yeah, that's true.
So doesn't have to worry about that one, but still plenty of ways that David could interact.
Looks like David was a little slow to discard there, so it looks like that was corrected. Dark Confidant going to come into play as is Tarmogoyf. So I imagine that this Tarmogoyf is big enough along with the Dark Confidants that we're probably seeing a lethal attack next turn. This is a Cunning Wish.
Uh-oh. Did she leave a high tide in her board? She did.
Come on. Too good.
That's impressive. We know about the last card being the Time Spiral, right?
So boarded in Zenith, boarded out High Tide.
Sure.
This is why I watch.
I know.
This is why I don't play.
There's an argument for maybe she has to worry about things like Surgical Extraction, Extirpate. Doesn't want to get cut off of her Cunning Wishes.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to Time Spiral it up. No mana floating. And unfortunately for David, he has no lands on tap, so no Extirpate. You know, something like Surgical Extraction, but that doesn't exist.
Right.
So Longmore has free reign to try to go off here.
Free reign. She's to some degree at the mercy of fate. Her 7 can be blank.
Yes.
That's a real thing that can happen whenever you spin the wheel with a card like Time Spiral.
Also adding counterbalance to your deck as well.
Sure.
So it's more difficult. I don't know how much more difficult, but you can draw those, and those won't be helpful. Now, of course, 8 mana available right now, has not played a land yet this turn either. Of course, all islands will be tapping for 2 mana right now with the potential for more if we find more High Tides. Let's see how these 7 do.
And notably, this time she does not lay out her hand face up. These are things. These are not things. Post board, she has to worry about. You mentioned Surgical Extraction. Mindbreak Trap is the other big one that you sometimes see Jund decks bring in. We know that David does not have access to any Mindbreak Traps. Feline does not.
One more with a mana floating, so now still a mana floating. Gonna cast a Merchant Scroll, gonna go digging very, very quickly. There's a High Tide. Again, don't forget there's 1 blue floating.
All of the mana.
Yep. So I imagine, gonna cast that. They're up to 3, so islands will be tapping for 3 blue.
Yeah, I see a Candelabra there up at the front, so.
Is there an action spell?
Yeah, that's the real question. She's been in the wheel for 1. She gets another look if this one doesn't work.
A couple copies of Brainstorm there. So yeah, I'm gonna do this again. 2 blue mana floating right now. There's a Brainstorm, so 1 left. Again, spell count for this particular deck doesn't actually matter. I mean, it could be a Brain Freeze kill, but chances are it's gonna be a Blue Sun Zenith kill again.
She can't Cunning Wish for it, of course. It's in her library.
Yep.
She can Merchant Scroll for it, though.
This is correct. Candelabra does come down. Looks like there is no blue floating now. I'm gonna search out an island. So now we're going to tap some mana, presumably. We'll see if it's time to do that just yet. So that'll be 6 blue. Use this to untap 5 lands, so there's a blue floating.
Blue floating and a potential 15 out of her lands now. So mana is certainly no longer the bottleneck. Just needs to find something to do with it.
Brainstorm with that last blue. Put 2 cards back. Can't fetch. Can cast the top, though. Now here's a scroll, so no mana floating.
And that can go get Blue Sun Zenith, which she can then cast for, I believe, at least 10. She can cast it for more than that. She has to leave some mana floating to continue to do things once it resolves.
Yep. So again, islands tapping for 3. This is a bunch of mana. This is a wipe away on the Candelabra. That's adorable. Yeah. Untap all of these.
The old ritual wipe away.
Yeah.
that gained 12 mana, right? That was add 12 to your pool.
6. So looks like 6 cards are drawn, with 9 blue mana available.
I think we could have went deeper. I don't presume to question at this point.
I just watch it happen.
Yeah, if she does it for 6, then that's right. Yep. Do it for 6 every time in this spot.
Ponder's going to look at Time Spiral among other cards. Going to keep. I imagine adding Spiral to the hand. This is a High Tide. Those are going to tap for 4 blue now. There's 1 more floating.
Okay, and she can cast. She has another Time Spiral, so always has kind of a reset button available to her here. But really, you don't want to use Time Spiral unless you absolutely have to.
So there's a Brainstorm. There's a top. Oh, actually, this is a Spiral.
Yeah, we see she had the Blue Sun Zenith back in her hand actually.
So now it looks like there's 1 blue mana floating. And so now we're going to count all these spells. She might be keeping track of Storm on the side in case it's a Cunning Wish or Brain Freeze type of kill.
Yeah, and I think we're at the point where if she were to find Cunning Wish off of this Time Spiral, she could actually just get Brain Freeze and win the game with it.
The top spins, she could just go top for top for top for top for top for top for wish for Brain Freeze kill you.
Yes. I mean, she's nearly cast enough spells that she wouldn't even need to do that.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
But yeah, she has basically 1 mana per extra spell to the storm count. So yeah, she could, with these 2 tops, she could get the storm count up to about 40 right now if she really wanted to.
Let's not forget, all those islands in play are going to tap for 4 blues. So in theory, there's 20 mana out there. We can add more with candelabras. There's 1 blue floating as well. So mana's not the issue. It's making sure Time Spiral hits action cards, which going to find 7 cards here, and then there are 2 tops in play as well.
Actual, all the mana you could ever want.
4, 5, 6, 7.
If she hits Blue Sun Zenith here, she can actually just cast it for the win immediately, I think.
Oh, Merchant Scroll and High Tide are found. That's what we're going to use that, I believe, that last blue mana on.
Okay, and Merchant Scroll actually is Blue Sun Zenith in this case. So, her only concern really at this point would be locating some sort of interaction, a Force of Will. She can't see David's hand, of course, and she doesn't know for sure that he doesn't have any way to interact in his deck post board. So we'll likely see her
wipe away a candelabra.
Make a bunch of mana, sure.
Turnabout, untap all those lands, float mana, cast a ponder.
Yeah, but she's gonna keep digging until she locates a Force of Will or 2, and then fire off Blue Sun Zenith here.
I imagine just keeping it as safe as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Merchant Scroll. It's time to go searching.
I love that Merchant Scroll lets you shuffle up your deck after you have put things on top, too.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Cunning Wish, gonna go use a Cunning Wish, gonna go search, gonna go grab something in just a moment here. Will Longmore.
Okay.
Maybe it is turnabout. All right, so I guess we just want all the mana.
Okay, sure.
Here's another Merchant Scroll.
Does she have Blue Sun Zenith, or not Blue Sun Zenith, Pact of Negation in her deck?
Bum, 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 bum. One on the board to wish for.
1, okay. All right. Obviously, 4 Force of Will in the main, and Flusterstorm. That's her main deck interaction. So, does need to spend some of her mana, but like we've been saying, really has all the mana she could ever want.
Yeah, Blue Sun Zenith, you for it all, and that is going to do it. Longmore is thrilled, wins this match over Jund, 2-0. Feline moves on to 7-1, and with any luck, can draw into the top 8.
Yeah, she's been, as we mentioned, she's been traveling around pretty extensively on the Open Series in the last couple of months. And I know I saw her in Seattle and LA, and then I've seen her here on the East Coast.
Yes.
She may have actually been at actually every Open Series stop in this season. I'm not sure, but I can't think of any where I didn't see her.